The last attempt by the Soviets to expand their influence was the invasion of Afghanistan in 1980. It was then that the CIA engaged Osama bin Laden and his freedom fighters, providing them with all the logistical, military, and strategic support to push the Soviets back to their borders. With the departure of the Russians from Kabul, the process of disintegration that would lead to the fall of the Berlin Wall had well begun. Before the collapse of the traditional enemy made of chicken wire, the neocons began to entertain the notion of extending their military and strategic control to the entire world.
We want to change some deeply entrenched notions about the proper role of American power in the world.
But controlling the world over the last century has always meant to control the supply of energy, which means to control the oil and gas resources in the Middle East. This is not a new concept at all.
The British checkmated Hitler in Syria when they moved in before the Nazis could take over, thus cutting off a potential source of oil for the German panzer divisions. Iran, too, is the same story. The British, with this coup, control almost all of the Middle East oil supply. This is the oil that Hitler badly needed but lost. And with Russia in the way, he can't win the Caucasian oil fields.
The golden opportunity came with the first Gulf War in 1991. At the crucial moment, however, with the Iraqi troops in total disarray, President Bush decided to stop the push and leave Saddam Hussein at the head of the nation. The ambitions of global control of the neocons suffered another temporary setback, which turned into a never-ending nightmare with the unexpected victory of Bill Clinton in the 1992 elections. Meanwhile, Russia was pulling itself up again, and the neocons could see the opportunity of world domination slip away year after year.
Ever since the Cold War ended, there were people who were fuming on the right, thinking, this is the golden opportunity, now that Russia's out of the way, for America to take over the world. We're not doing anything about it. Those damn liberals, those soft heads, are keeping us from doing what is our godly mission.
As they sat waiting for the end of Clinton's mandate, the neocons put together the so-called Wolfowitz Doctrine, which established the right of the United States to engage in preemptive war anywhere in the world, in order to avoid other nations from challenging their supremacy. Thus was born a precise strategic plan of global reach, which we have come to know as the PNAC, or Project for the New American Century. After the return to the White House, with the controversial election won by George Bush in the year 2000, the neocons needed to rehash the operation left uncompleted by the father 10 years before. We now find Dick Cheney as Vice President, Donald Rumsfeld as Secretary of Defense, and as his deputy, Paul Wolfowitz. In order to restart the gigantic war machine, however, it would not be sufficient to awaken the Soviet ghosts, which in the meantime had been relegated to the pages of history. A different kind of enemy was needed. It had to be everywhere and nowhere, elusive but ever present, in order to inject in the American population enough fear for them to support a military response of global reach.
يا خيل الله اركبي فاختاروا الخندق الذي تكونون فيه.
With a few touch-ups, Al-Qaeda, which was the name of the database with all the names of the people the CIA had sent to fight with bin Laden, became the name of the most powerful terrorist organization in the world. Bin Laden saw himself accused of the bombings of the American embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, and of the American ship Cole, without having claimed responsibility for them. The suspicion that someone within the CIA and FBI was building an artificial figure to be used in false flag terrorist operations seems to be confirmed by internal conflicts that have reached as high as the presidency itself.
After the cold, I had battle plans drawn to go into Afghanistan, overthrow the Taliban, and launch a full-scale attack search for bin Laden. But we needed basing rights in Uzbekistan, which we got after 9/11. The CIA and the FBI refused to certify that bin Laden was responsible while I was there. No one knew Al-Qaeda existed then.
The Western media, however, had already made up their minds. Bin Laden was the bad guy, and from him anything could be expected at that point. On the eve of September 10, 2001, a full plan to attack Afghanistan with strong support to the Northern Alliance was placed on Bush's table, to be signed by the President upon his return from Florida. All that was needed was a detonator to set in motion the operation that would have finally brought America to the strategic control of worldwide resources and the neocons to the realization of their dream. Let's take a step back and read some paragraphs from the final PNAC document, which was published in September of the year 2000. In the chapter called Creating Tomorrow's Dominant Force, we can read, "At present, the United States faces no global rival. America's grand strategy should aim to preserve and extend this advantageous position as far into the future as possible. The United States must retain sufficient forces able to rapidly deploy and win multiple simultaneous large-scale wars. The United States must reposition U.S. forces to respond to 21st century strategic realities by shifting permanently based forces to Southeast Europe and Southeast Asia. The Army's annual budget must increase to the $90 to $95 billion level. Specialized Air Force aircraft, like the J-Stars above, are too few in numbers to meet current mission demand. The Army should accelerate its plans to purchase medium-weight vehicles. The transformation effort must be considered as pressing a military mission as preparing for today's theater wars. Further, the process of transformation, even if it brings a revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor.
Jap planes without warning bring war to America. Our great Pacific outpost in the Hawaiian Islands is ruthlessly bombed as Japan's perfidious declaration of war. Death and destruction unleashed on a nation at peace. On that fateful Sunday morning when this country was extending a friendly hand of conciliation and peace. The treacherous attacks brought death to almost 3,000 American soldiers, sailors, and civilians. Our loss in warships and planes was high, but overnight this nation was united in an all-out determination to avenge the hideous assault on American lives and property. Our battle cry is, remember Pearl Harbor.
Dense black smoke billowed to the sky as the massive control tower began to keel over. The Arizona's courageous crew stuck to its guns until the very end. Here was displayed heroism that will live forever in the glorious annals and traditions of the American Navy.
September 11 was not the first time America was drawn into a war by an ambiguous incident. The American Constitution doesn't allow the United States to wage a preemptive war, and reserves for Congress the power of declaring war to another nation. For this reason, every time a president has wanted to enter a war or to begin a new one, he has had to wait for a military incident, whether created or provoked, to justify the use of force in front of Congress and the American people. In 1898, the United States went to war against Spain in order to take control of the Caribbean area. The pretext came from the sinking of the USS Maine, which was anchored near the Cuban island. The Spanish were immediately accused of the attack, even though they sternly denied any involvement in it. The images of the sunken vessel and those of the sailors' funerals were shown in the first movie theaters of the nation, thus generating a strong wave